I'm Nick, and I am here with Frodan. Thank you so much, man, for hanging out.
Glad to be here.
I mean, welcome to Australia as well.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It is beautiful. It's very true. Now, the deal here is we just figured that you come to Australia, this is your first time in Australia, and we thought we'd get you to play the national game. Because this is made by Bennett Foddy, Getting Over It is made by Bennett Foddy, a sadistic Australian man who hates fun, who hates life, who hates accomplishment. You know, the same could be said about people who enjoy some elements of Hearthstone as well. So I figured that it would be appropriate. So the idea here, you're the man in the cauldron, you need to reach the top of the mountain, you swing that hammer around, you try to get up. The highest you get will be your score. So I just wanted to see how far you can get up here, or we just have a chat about what makes Frodan Frodan.
All right, well,
We've also made it added difficult by using the controller, because it's just so bad with the controller.
Is this supposed to be played with another?
It's supposed to be played with mouse and keyboard, but it's just hard to balance that thing on your lap, so this is where we've ended up. But this is your first time in Australia. How are you enjoying it so far?
Well, I was doing great until you showed me this game.
That is true. You seemed very happy when we met.
Really happy. I saw a lot of beautiful sights, met a lot of beautiful people, great accents, good seafood, and now why am I doing this?
Are you saying that the topless cauldron man is not beautiful?
Yeah, that was part of the beautiful people.
Right, okay.
I was specifically referencing him.
You're here for the Australia stop for HCT.
Yes, that's right. You know, Hearthstone is going on tour in 2018 around the world, and we're going to make stops in all different corners of the globe. Yeah. So this stop is very early in the year, and Sydney is a pretty bumping place for most people. A lot of people are coming to Australia in general just to compete for different events, and so I thought it was really cool to come out here for the first time.
So I guess my question to you is, do you sleep?
You know, these days I do actually sleep a lot more. In the past, I did not.
Yeah.
In the very beginning of Hearthstone, when it was first taking off, I was traveling I don't know, sometimes between 2 to 3 months at a time, and just being home maybe 1 or 2 of those days in between trips. It was pretty crazy. I was 1 week in Europe, next week in Asia, next week in America, next week back in Europe, then to Asia, and just constantly losing time. I wasn't exactly sure how long I could keep it up. There was a lot of fatigue, to be honest. It wasn't the fact that I didn't enjoy my job, it was just, you know, I never really thought of the downside of just getting tired physically. At one point, I actually had pretty severe panic and anxiety attack.
Yeah, because you'd just be wiped out.
It's a little intense. I don't think you actually meant to, or I don't think this interview was supposed to maybe talk about it.
This is all about like the real you, and so no, this is no. I'll share. We'll both share. You shared yours. I once worked. I had to get a TV show finished that we were so behind on. I worked for 4 days straight, basically with no sleep. And then when we were done, I walked out the door and I was walking to the train station, and I collapsed on the side of the street.
Wow.
Passed out, smashed my tooth, and like chipped the front of my tooth. I woke up just on the ground on the pavement. Bunch of Sydney motherfuckers just walking right past me. No one picked me up.
Yeah, you know.
Was that too much? Was that too far?
That was pretty raw. That was pretty raw.
Yeah,
I would have picked you up, Nick.
I know.
But I'm not very strong.
Where did you start in esports? You were doing StarCraft for a while?
Yeah, actually, I came from the shooter community too. Even before StarCraft, yeah, I did a lot of Halo and Call of Duty. That's where I was competing in the first place with MLG back in the day. Halo 2, when it first was broadcasted on TV, I was so excited about it because I played Halo at the time as well, so I started competing in tournaments, and then Halo 3 came out, and so I followed that train, and then MLG announced that they were going to move to PC gaming. World of Warcraft was first announced to the competitive circuit, and then they announced StarCraft 2. And I remember playing StarCraft when I was a kid, so I was starting to get into that a little bit, and plus, you know, I wanted to play with my friends who were all into PC games at the time. So I got into StarCraft 2, and, you know, at first I was trying to compete, and if you can't compete, you start doing broadcasting commentary.
Yeah,
so I ended up going
like a
into
PE
that.
teacher.
Yeah, exactly.
And so the move to Hearthstone, though, because you got on pretty early. You got on when it first blew up, right?
Yeah, I was one of the first people even creating Hearthstone tournaments, just because I believed a lot in the entertainment factor of the game. I didn't really make events and put them on our broadcast primarily because I wanted to be a caster. I just thought the game was really fun, and I got addicted very early on to it. So it was one of those things where I know people enjoyed watching it, and I wanted to put on a really fun product for people, and it turned out just a lot of people watched it. Yeah. And I don't think I was actually particularly very good at Hearthstone commentary in the very beginning.
I'd agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kidding.
It's fair, you know. I think for the most part, it was a very humbling experience to just learn, or relearn rather, how to properly do broadcasting commentary for a completely different style game. You know, people who can do some of the best sports broadcasting. They can cast the most exciting football matches. And, you know, you compare that and then you kind of shift to a completely different style sport, like golf, for example. And that's kind of the big change that I experienced myself. I had all this experience doing other kinds of commentary, and then going into a game like Hearthstone, it was just so unique and different, but it was still very engaging, and I love it. It fits my style perfectly. It's almost very similar to how we're talking right now.
Because there's a heap of downtime compared to something like a shooter, where it's the constant frenetic action. Hearthstone is a lot of like just people sitting there contemplating, and you need to fill in the gaps.
Right.
And by the way, I noticed that you have not even left the ground yet.
I think you are a very interesting person, and I am very bad at this game. Therefore, I think I should step away from this.
No. Because I mean, I don't want to shame you, but we've got a map on the wall behind, which is the entire map of the game. So wherever you land, you're going to be marked on this map, and then guests over the course of the year are going to be marked according to how high they get. The alternative was we were going to put you in an actual pod, and just we'd do this for real.
Okay. I think I have a better chance of doing this in real life than I do in this video.
So part of the thing, though, with the emergence of Hearthstone as an esport is that I feel like a lot of the, you know, we know a lot of the professional players and that sort of thing, but because of the amount of downtime and because the entertainment factor of the game, and particularly the casting, that the casters have become arguably bigger personalities than a lot of the players.
I think it's because in card games with a lot of variance and volatility, the casters are the more constant factor that carries on between events. There are players who are obviously very good, and everything is, you know, amazing to watch them play and perform. But casters are the ones really tapping to their mindsets, and you also see them every single tournament. So you kind of latch onto them to carry the storylines from game to game.
And I feel like you're in a unique position there as well, because you got people like Kibler and Firebat and these guys who are appearing a lot of the tournaments. So they're doing a lot of casting and desk work or analysis or whatever. But in the meantime, they're also doing a lot of streaming. They're online a lot, and you're not really the person doing the like daily Twitch grind. You got the Omni stuff, which is awesome, but you're not doing that sort of like, I'm on 8 hours a day, and yet you still manage to be, you know, one of the primary faces of the game. Well, I guess I'm saying congratulations. Like, you seem to have found that magical thing that everyone on the internet wants, which is to be very popular, but not have to just be online for 14 hours a day.
Well, I think, you know, for guys like Kibler and Firebat, and especially Kibler, they really enjoy the engagement and talking and meeting with their fans. For me, I actually did do that for a period of time. I actually streamed, and I felt like I had a decent-sized community at one point. But I also work full-time for Twitch, so I have a different Twitch account.
Yeah, right.
I work as a program manager for their eSports department. Yeah. So I have that as a full-time job. I'm making backwards progress with this.
Look, I mean,
I have a new objective. I try to be the worst possible score. Can I do that?
Yeah. Well, I think you can actually go up over this rock and go backwards.
So I can go negative.
Yeah. How about we do one lifeline, like a phone a friend situation?
Okay.
Where, oh my God, you don't need it at all because you are a professional.
Oh no! Oh wait! No!
Swing it up! Swing it up! Oh, beep, beep, beep!
Oh.
Okay, everyone shut up. Everyone just mainly being.
Oh wait, no. Okay. Wait. So I think I swing my momentum here. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, wait. Oh no, it's pulling me down. All right, go back down.
You got it.
Oh.
This was real life. The edge of that tree would have just chopped off his head.
Yeah.
I feel like, look, we've learned something about you. Oh my God!
Oh, miracles.
See, this is what we've learned. You thrive on competition. The moment that I was like, oh, do you want me to do it for you?
No, you're jinxing it.
I'm jinxing it. I'll do it for you.
No, I got you.
Since you thrive on doubt, how do you prepare for all these tournaments? You know, so let's say, like, run me through how you're preparing for the Australia stuff.
Well, first, you know, I wake up. I turn.
I like that we're going really deep.
Yeah, I turn on the shower so I can't tell if I'm crying. And then. Oh no! How did I do that? I got so much air.
Oh, that was crazy air.
I play a lot of Hearthstone. I think a lot of people underestimate how much time preparation really counts for when you're just playing the game.
Yeah.
But you have to also do very meticulous practice. You have to communicate how you want the game to be presented. And so not only am I playing, I'm also talking through my plays as if I want to commentate the action.
Just to yourself, or are you doing it with
to myself,
to someone else?
Very loudly.
Yeah, right.
So that my neighbor can hear.
Yeah, okay,
If they stick their head out the window, I make eye contact. And
just intense eye contact.
But in all seriousness, I think the preparation really comes down to watching myself, writing down the goals that I want to really hit for a certain broadcast, or maybe I'm saying this season I'm trying out this kind of commentary style. And I think one thing that people really don't do is actually just practice like in front of a mirror and really try to present or record themselves and watch themselves. And you know, I also do that, and I gather inspiration from other sources. I watch TV anchors, you know, such as yourself and
of course,
a bunch of other people.
You've probably watched a lot of my content, and
of
just
course.
took a lot of tips.
I was your first subscriber.
Yeah, just tell me, what are the top 3 things you've learned from me over the course of my career?
Fashion,
of course,
of course. You know, facial hair growth patterns.
I mean,
I'm working on it myself. As
right?
You know, this is about a weekend.
Okay, good. Yeah. This is 2 years.
Yeah,
so,
and you know, the charming wit and accent of an Australian male.
I'm so glad that I can have an influence overseas. I mean, that is...
You truly are an international.
That is interesting, that the way that you're preparing, except for the presentation side, is a lot of the same ways that a player would prepare. Because in many ways, as opposed to, you know, more traditional sports or something, you're basically running all the plays in your head the same time as the player is.
Did I just do that?
You did do that.
Wow.
There's a coffee cup up there as well. You can have a break.
The less I listen to you, the better I do.
Oh my god. That is, like, dude, I'm not joking. This is legit the most hurtful thing anyone's ever said to me.
Sorry. Oh!
Beautiful!
Oh!
Beautiful!
Oh! I got it.
Crap! Beautiful!
I was wrong.
This is
Listening to you has made me better.
Look. This is, now you've learned 4 things from me. Oh god.
Oh! Oh, I just want the action. I just want the action, man. Oh, you never know. Am I going left? Am I going right? Am I going up?
That's the thing, when this game screws up...
No, I'm not going up. Oh, I'm going down. Sorry, what was the question?
I'm scared to ask now.
Oh, no!
Fuck. No! We will judge you from your highest, the place where you got the highest. It's not your ending point, so you're okay. Yeah, no, the question was about the fact that you're running through the plays at the same time as the player. You need to have as much technical game knowledge as the player, as opposed to, like, let's say, a football broadcaster who just needs to sit there and literally say what they see in front of them, like some sort of weird, overpaid parrot.
Where, you know, in Hearthstone commentary, you try to tap into the mindset and really bring out a conversation. When people are playing Hearthstone, it's very much stream of consciousness. They just say phrases to themselves, at least internally. And when you're doing commentary...
My phrase is mainly, fuck.
Yeah.
Fuck. Goddamn. Fuck.
The thing about doing sports commentary is that you're exactly right. You can kind of, the action kind of naturally gets drawn around a center point, like a ball, for example. So you always go, Smith to Sanders to Anderson, goal! You know, you call the action, and that's pretty much it.
When they turn off the Hearthstone servers, you have a backup career in whatever sport you were just commentating.
Yeah,
Smith and Henderson and Anderson and...
Taking class attendance at high school.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Smith! Henderson! Henderson!
That's what makes Hearthstone so compelling, because it's just so different from everything else. And that's what gives it such a hook compared to everything. Like, you know, to be very candid, there's a lot of shooters coming out. There's a lot of fighting games coming out. There's a lot of MOBAs every single year that try to contend for the top spot over League of Legends and Dota. But there's no real game kind of like Hearthstone that always brings you back, and it's always very easy to follow.
Even though there have been a bunch of games that have come out where they've gone, oh, card game, we can do, like, there's Magic the Gathering and it's Hearthstone, we can totally do this, and they just, for some reason, it just never hits the sides. Like, they just cannot come close to what Hearthstone's doing.
Yeah, I think Blizzard does a really good job of, like, accidentally creating, like, a phenomenal spectating experience and then kind of playing into it. You know, they kind of mentioned in the very early stages of Hearthstone development that they weren't even trying to make it like a spectator game. They were just trying to make it.
Well, you can tell because the spectating in-client experience is just awful.
Well, I mean, at least there is something to spectate. I mean, I've played a handful of games where I just want to watch, but I can't even get into it.
Yeah.
But, you know, they've done that historically through a lot of their games. And I think what's becoming more interesting, too, is that Hearthstone community is also maturing. I think a lot of people are starting to value you know, how Hearthstone is over time, as opposed to just this one individual game where if you got lucky or unlucky. So I really like how the communities continue to develop, and I think that in 5 to 10 years, you might see a completely different set of games at the top that people are watching on YouTube and Twitch and all these other platforms. But I think Hearthstone will still be around.
I certainly do hope so, because it's one of my favorite games of all time. Now, at the moment, we've just come off the back with some pretty serious nerfs to some of the cards, and I think everyone seems pretty happy with them. They seemed like well past their use by date in terms of this coming out. This is now, you know, one of the first few tournaments post nerf, one of the first big ones. How are you finding the meta at the moment going into the Sydney style? And by the way, you can answer it right after you get. Oh!
Oh, I'm trying to go fast.
There are 8 people in this room right now who are all just craning to look at the television.
Oh, no. Oh, the pressure. Choke.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Oh,
no.
Yes!
Yes!
Oh my god. Take a breath. Yeah, Hearthstone meta. How are you feeling about it right now?
I just don't want to fall back down.
Oh, you could so go. Yes.
Okay. Oh, wait, hold on. I don't even know what to do from here.
So, it's kind of like the worst part of the game. I think maybe you give it the ground pound, and then like, doink, 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 doink. Does that make sense? Where you fall down.
Yes! Okay, so I just need to get here. Oh.
You are living so dangerously on that edge.
How did I get down here again? Yeah, since the nerfs have come down, the meta has changed pretty dramatically, and I think people are just more open to that. And I think Blizzard for a while was a little concerned about nerfs and balance patches, but these days they're really embracing the idea of constant change, and I think that's what makes Hearthstone and card games exciting. The way it challenges you to think about or rethink different things at different periods of time, like, is the card better now because of the nerfs? Or maybe can I pay attention to certain classes or decks that I wasn't looking at before because certain like strategies were too strong?
Once the meta kind of gets figured out, if you're not the kind of person that wants to experiment with crazy decks and is fine with losing against sort of, you know, more powerful top tier meta decks, then the game can become a bit rote and you're waiting for the next expansion. But if you put out a nerf in the middle of the cycle between 2 releases, then suddenly you've reinvigorated the whole scene for another month or 2, and then that just, you know, continues to add to the freshness, which is really helpful. We're also heading towards, you know, some potential Hall of Fame inductees, and you put out a list on Twitter a couple of weeks ago talking about your sort of choices that you would put in there. Those choices, a lot of them were sort of class-specific cards, whereas the last Hall of Fames, most of them were neutral cards, which we're sort of just seeing in a lot of decks, whereas the cards that you were suggesting, you know, they affect the identity of the class. Do you think that that's something that Blizzard should be less precious with? Is, you know, Ice Block is something that's just core to the identity of Mage and should always be there?
Well, it's an interesting idea too, because Hall of Fame is supposed to represent a couple of things. One is to help keep the game fresh from just that class identity perspective, or just the fact that not everything is so ubiquitously used across every kind of deck archetype. So one of them was Azure Drake, for example. Anytime you want to play like a mid-range deck or anything that want to use spell power, you always just put it in. It's just so good.
And it takes the slot of something else that could be interesting or different.
It opens up other 5-mana plays, similar to Sylvanas and Ragnaros. But another part of it too is just thinking about how future design works. The big problem of the classic set, in my opinion, is that the classes aren't perfectly balanced in terms of their raw power level. And so what ends up happening is, because certain classes are stronger, if they ever get printed strong cards, they're just immediately really strong and busted. But on the flip side, if a weak class in the basic set, like Priest, for example, doesn't get good cards, they're just going to be on the bottom every single time. So every expansion, you have to print really strong Priest cards, and then it kind of culminates into this one moment.
This one perfect moment,
insanely good. And it still is relevant even in Wild format, where it's an Eternal Legacy format that you can play in 10 years, and you can play with every single card in Hearthstone. It's really exciting to think about, but you don't want those cards to always just be super dominant. So when you saw nerfs come down so late into the development cycle of an expansion, you know, it's been a year and a couple months, and then they decide to nerf Mean Streets of Gadsden cards, they largely are nerfing it for the preservation of the Eternal format.
Yeah.
Wow.
And do you think that, in terms of the class identity, would you be fine seeing that, you know, Mage is, at the moment, a class that can sort of hold off long enough? Oh my god, you nearly just... Mage at the moment is a class that can hold off long enough class identity-wise until they just burn you down. And would you be happy to say that that's what Mage has been like in, you know, from when Hearthstone started to 2018, but then, you know, Mage from 2019 to 2023 or something is a class that, I don't know, works way more with evasion and healing spells or something. That the identity of how Mage plays has shifted over time and has several forms of different mages, I guess.
The purpose of class cards and why I suggested them was so that way those classes can not only be brought down in power level, but so that way other classes can rise up, and that way the need for designing insanely powerful cards and expansions won't be as important as it is in the past. And that's why you saw Shaman get so many good cards, and Shaman went through a period where it was just insane because all the expansions just slowly got it to the point where it was too much. And the big problem was it wasn't even just one card. It wasn't even 2 or 3 cards. It was the fact that everything over the course of 2-3 expansions was so good.
And which, from the community perspective, I feel like we didn't see coming because it was this really, really slow burn where you're just like, oh, it's still not great, it's still not great, it's still not great. Oh my god, what just happened?
I think Hearthstone has done a fantastic job making new things out of each expansion. A big problem that a lot of card games have is that when you release a new set, it just makes the existing decks much stronger, and there's really nothing new that comes up. And you might feel like that's the case sometimes in Hearthstone, where some of the decks that are good already get a little bit better, but they need to do that. They need to make sure that it's not just a one-time expansion, you play this deck and then it's never relevant again. So you want to get continued support, but you also want to create new archetypes. And if you look at the diversity across all of the classes and all the decks that are viable to help you hit Legend, which is what 99% of the player base cares about if they're playing ranked, is just to go as high as they can and hit Legend. They've done a fantastic job creating archetypes that just don't even make sense at first, like a no-minion Spell Hunter, which sounds stupid at first, even to the point where the community was mocking some of the cards that were coming out as some of the worst cards in Hearthstone history. Not true at all, and it's actually, right to this moment, a very competitive deck.
It can beat nearly everything.
Yes. And then you have like classes that play only big spells, and you have to rethink how you build your cheaper spells, even though they're so effective in Mage and in Priest. And then you have quest decks that completely change how you even build the deck. You start thinking about these stupid 1-mana cost cards like Stone Dust Borer and Wax Elemental, and you put them in Quest Rogue, and all of a sudden they become the most overpowered things ever. Right?
Yeah, totally.
So that's something that Hearthstone's done a fantastic job with. Death Knights, quests, even the legendary weapons are really good. And I feel like a little bit more constant change has been also really supporting it to the point where people can now play with all different kinds of cards. And I'm always really shocked to see how much representation of card pool diversity in Hearthstone that many people can get to Legend. You might not see them all the time in tournaments, but that's because the players are always trying to pick their best strategies, and they often talk to each other and come to agreement what is the best. But when you talk about ladder, if you're getting better and you really have only a limited card pool like collection, I think you can get to Legend if you really put yourself to it. Oh! Is that it? Am I over? Okay.
Would you say you're over it?
Yeah.
It's been absolute honor having you hang out here. I appreciate it so much. I'm sorry we ruined your holiday by making you play this game.
This was terrible.
But you, being the first person to compete in getting over it, you hold the record of just you got up to the little plank bit before the Hall of Death. So you're right there. So we'll get you to etch your name on the wall. But look, good luck with the tournament, and yeah, really appreciate it, man.
Thanks a lot, Nick.
Cheers.
To be honest, we were pretty impressed. We thought no one was going to get that high all year.
You think so?